Hey guys, what's going on everyone? Hope you're all doing great. So today we've got something really cool to talk about, the brand new Brotato update, version 1.1.13.0, also known as the New Dawn update. Now, if you've been playing Brotato for a while, you probably know how addicting this little potato survivor game can be. And this latest update brings in a whole bunch of new features, items, and some really nice quality of life improvements that actually make the game feel fresher and smoother than it's felt in months. So let's talk about everything that's new, how it changes the way we play, and honestly, why this might be one of the best updates the game has gotten in a while. First off, the new stuff, because let's be real, that's what everyone's curious about. Brotato 1.1.13.0 adds 6 brand new items and 1 brand new weapon to the game, and they're not just random filler content either. These are things that actually shift how you approach certain builds. For example, one of the new items is called Fresh Meat, and it's automatically unlocked for everyone right from the start, which is always nice. But the others are tied to specific achievements or stat goals, like the new Ghost outfit, which you unlock if you can hit a massive plus 70% dodge in a run. That's not easy. It really pushes you to experiment with characters and builds that maximize dodge stacking. Then there's the new weapon, the Vorpal Sword, which you unlock when you manage to reach plus 100% crit chance. If you're someone who loves those high crit melee builds, that's definitely a fun goal to chase. And honestly, that sword feels really satisfying to use once you unlock it. It's like the game rewarding you for all those risky glass cannon builds you've been experimenting with. But what really stands out in this update isn't just the new gear, it's the new item ban system. This might sound small at first, but trust me, it changes the way you approach your runs in a pretty big way. Basically, the game now lets you ban up to 8 items per run. So if there are items you absolutely hate seeing in the shop, maybe they don't fit your build or they just mess with your stats, you can finally get rid of them for that run. It's a simple system, but it gives you so much more control over your build path. The cool part is that it's not unlocked right away. You actually have to win a run on Danger 3 or higher to unlock it. So it's like a reward for players who've got some experience under their belt. Once you have it though, it's a total game changer. I found myself using it constantly to cut out those items that just never work with certain character archetypes. And 8 bans per run is the perfect number. It's enough to shape the shop to your liking, but not so much that it makes the game too predictable. Now, there's another feature that might sound small, but it's something a lot of people have been asking for. Save profiles. You can now have 3 separate save slots. Each one is completely independent, so you can use one for your main progression, another for a challenge-only run, and maybe a third one where you just experiment with weird builds or unlocks. You can even copy or reset each slot individually, and if you're someone who doesn't like grinding all the unlocks again, there's an option to unlock all the content for that specific profile. The catch is that if you use that unlock all option, achievements get disabled, which makes sense. It keeps things fair. But honestly, having multiple profiles just makes life so much easier. If you've ever had that moment where you want to hand the game to a friend or family member to try without messing up your unlocks, this is perfect. Something else that's new, and honestly really well done, is the new in-game Codex. This is kind of like your personal encyclopedia for Brotato. It collects all the information about the items, weapons, enemies, and progression. It's such a neat addition because it saves you from having to alt-tab to look stuff up. The game's gotten complex enough over time that having a built-in reference is super convenient, especially if you're still learning what certain items synergize with or what enemies spawn on certain waves. This feature feels long overdue in the best way possible. One of the biggest behind-the-scenes improvements, though, is that Brotato now officially supports Mac and Linux on Steam. That's a big deal for accessibility, because up until now, a lot of players couldn't easily play the game unless they were running Windows. Now, with native support, the player base just got a lot bigger. And if you've got friends who are waiting on that, they can finally join the chaos. Alright, now let's talk about the quality of life changes, because this update is full of them. You know how sometimes Brotato can feel a little overwhelming with all the text, icons, and shop management? The developers clearly paid attention to that. Now, stat icons have been added to character and item descriptions, which makes everything easier to read at a glance. If you're the kind of player who doesn't like visual clutter, you can even turn those icons off in the accessibility settings, which is a nice touch. They also added sorting options to your inventory, and there are new shortcut buttons for common actions like locking items, banning them, or re-rolling in the shop. It just makes everything flow more smoothly when you're trying to manage your shop between waves. They've also merged some of the options menus like general and game options to make things less cluttered. The UI looks more unified now, and they even added some visual polish, like new animations for the start and end of runs, updated visuals for structures and particle effects, and little touches like trees no longer spraying blood when you hit them. It's the kind of stuff that doesn't change gameplay, but it makes the whole experience feel more polished and satisfying. Now, we have to talk about balance changes, because those are always what keep Brotato interesting for long-term players. One of the key adjustments here is that Piggy Bank and Crown no longer appear after Wave 20. This makes sense. By that point, the economy is usually set, and those items could make late-game scaling a bit too powerful. So removing them from late waves keeps things more balanced and focused on your combat decisions rather than just economy stacking. Some character bans have been updated too. For example, Cyborg now has Charcoal and Gnome added to its banned list, meaning those items won't appear in its runs anymore. It tightens up the character identity a bit more. Also, Gobbler can't be buffed anymore, which was likely a response to some players using him in ways that made certain runs a bit too easy. Now, here's a really interesting tweak. The way burning works has been adjusted. Before this update, burning damage applied in a sort of delayed tick that sometimes caused weird interactions, especially if enemies died instantly from burn-related effects. Now, burning applies right before the damage is dealt, which means if an enemy is burning and you hit them, the game processes that burn correctly before finalizing the damage. What that means in practice is that effects like Will-o'-the-Wisp now work more reliably, even if you kill an enemy in one hit. So, for people who like running elemental or burn builds, this feels way smoother. It fixes that weird inconsistency where some on-kill effects wouldn't trigger properly if the burning damage finished enemies off at awkward moments. Speaking of polish, there were some minor bug fixes too. Stuff like localization errors in certain languages, small text issues, and some visual effects being toned down. For instance, blood particles are now less aggressive, and trees don't emit blood when they're hit, which sounds small, but actually helps make the visuals cleaner. One thing you should know if you're coming back after a while, if you had a run that you left unfinished before updating, the developers recommend finishing it in the old version before switching to the new one. If you try to load a pre-patch run on the new version, there's a good chance it'll crash because of all the new systems. But that's a one-time thing, and it's worth it to get the new experience. And yes, for everyone wondering about consoles, the New Dawn update is already live on PC and Epic Games, but it's coming to Switch really soon. The devs confirmed it'll roll out within about a month, so console players won't have to wait long to get their hands on all this new stuff. Now, let's talk about how all of this actually changes how you play. The new item ban system alone changes strategy. For example, if you're running a crit build and you know there are a handful of items that dilute your pool, stuff that lowers crit chance or adds stats you don't care about, you can ban them early. Suddenly your shop is more focused, your rerolls are more efficient, and you can build momentum faster. On the flip side, if you're the kind of player who loves chaos and variety, you might not want to use bans at all. But the nice part is that the feature is optional. It's not forced on you. It's just there when you want that extra control. The new weapon unlocks also give you more mid and long-term goals. Trying to reach plus 100% crit chance is a fun challenge on its own, and it pushes you to use characters and items that maybe you wouldn't normally prioritize. Same thing with plus 70% dodge. You start to rethink how to build around that stat, which characters can realistically get there, and what combinations make it possible.